and welcome back to the Dobson Advice. Today I'll be speaking about digital out of home, but first I'll define what digital out of home is, as well as how does it work in the digital media landscape. So without further ado, I'll kick things off. Digital out of home refers to digital media that appears in environments that are accessible to the public. Typically, these environments could range from airports, transit shelters or kiosks, malls, as well as gyms. And more recently, you've probably seen these types of ads as you travel to and from work through the use of digital screens on the highway. So these are all examples of digital out of home ads. Digital out of home is defined as a one-to-many medium. What this means is that different brands and advertisers would be able to communicate to their consumers in a fashion that they might have one centralized message, but they're able to disperse this message amongst a wide cast of individuals on the go at the right time, in the right place. So let's use, for example, there's a auto brand that's trying to reach business professionals. Typically, when planning a digital out of home buy, you'd want to think about where these users tend to frequent. Where are your consumers? So as mentioned, you want to hit business professionals, for example. From there, you'd start to strategize or work with your strategy team on how to best reach these users in the environments in which they frequent. So your next step would be to look at different digital out-of-home suppliers in which you could buy this specific inventory. Because I'm aware with the digital out-of-home landscape, I know that there's a handful of different suppliers to choose from. These could be Clear Channel Outdoor. Another example could be from Captivate. There's also Zoom, as well as broadsign. So in my opinion, these are some of the top suppliers in which you'd be able to choose from to be able to hit this target audience at the right time. Captivate is number one for being able to reach business professionals in the environments in which they frequent. An example in which you'd be able to reach these users would be within an elevator in which they might go to work. They're stepping out to buy coffee. This will be a key central place to be able to reach these users. So going back to the example I had before, the auto brand might want to consider being able to work with Captivate to reach these users in real time by gaining access to the elevator screens to then push their marketing messages through. So this is how digital out of home would work. There are some challenges that are currently still being faced within the space. Some of these challenges center around tracking and measurement, as most digital media tends to have the ability to place tracking pixels to filter back in attribution or to be able to measure against a client's benchmarks or KPIs. Digital out of home is still a new medium that is being developed, and as a result, there is no third-party tracking. However, a brand or advertiser is able to use a one-by-one tracker or a one-by-one pixel. And this is still being developed as time goes on. So there might definitely be an opportunity for there to be better reporting and attribution in the future. But for now, these are the challenges that the medium currently faces. So to share how measurement is typically done currently is based on an impression multiplier. So what this would mean is, going back to the definition of digital out of home, it's a one-to-many medium. So a brand is able to disperse one centralized message to a wide net or cast of people. So typically when this is done, they put a value or a number to how many people they feel as if this ad might have reached at a particular time. So As mentioned, using the example with the auto brand, you want to hit business professionals with an elevator through Captivate. So, a digital brand would be able to access this screen and share their digital marketing message to a particular audience at a certain time. And then from there, they'll cast a net of how many eyeballs they relatively think would frequent that environment at that specific time frame. So this is known as an impression multiplier, and this is how digital out of home is currently being measured. So most metrics aren't in real time. It'll definitely take a series of days after this exposure for you to then be able to pull reporting or receive reporting from your supplier or via the DSP, because digital out of home could definitely be bought programmatically. Some of the DSPs that offer digital out of home capabilities are Verizon OOH, as well as Vistar Media, and lastly, Adelphic. While I was working at an advertising agency, I actually was using Adelphic to set up digital out of home campaigns. And this is where I first had the opportunity to gain hands on experience to see how to set up these campaigns efficiently within the DSP. So, to go a little further into setup, how it would typically work is that after you worked with your strategy team, you guys are aligned on who you're trying to reach and when, as well as the inventory in which you're running on. You'd then want to activate your campaign within the DSP. So you'd still input your budget. Oftentimes, you would input your geo targeting, as well as you would have to create a PMP or a deal ID with the supplier to then be able to target it within your DSP. So, this is how you would set up the campaign operationally to guarantee success. Another thing I want to note is that another challenge within digital out of home is that you can't set frequency caps. So you can't set how often you would like your digital marketing messages to be dispersed to your target audience or consumers. For certain brands, this may become an issue because, as you know, reach and frequency is important. So you don't want to oversaturate your users. However, since digital out of home is considered an awareness channel or tactic, I would say that the use of out of home and not being able to set frequency caps could actually be an advantage to your brand, as you're able to hit more people at one time and create more awareness or brand recall within the environments in which they frequent. So even though it may not be ideal for certain brands, for others it might be an optimal selling point to be able to reach more eyeballs in real time. So, as mentioned, digital out of home is a one-to-many media or medium that is currently still being developed, and this is an example of how digital out of home is currently used within the digital media landscape, as well as I touched on some of the challenges that the medium is currently facing since it's new and up and coming. But to find out more information, definitely feel free to reach out to me and I could help you to strategize your digital out of home strategies, as well as to activate these type of campaigns.